only on their faces, but also on their badges. They're wearing those mourning bands. And again, right now they are staging. We don't want to pan off of the hearse at the moment, because any minute now they will be escorting the body of Sergeant Gila. Knowing what he was facing, the danger that he was in, but he went in anyway to try to save lives. And this morning, his close friend, the sheriff of Ventura County, said he undoubtedly did save lives. There was a CHP officer that managed to pull him out of the line of fire. Unfortunately, though, they were not able to save him. And again, the procession is expected to get underway at 10 a.m. The law enforcement personnel that has gathered here will escort his body to the Ventura County Coroner's Office, which is in Ventura. And all along the way, if what we're seeing here plays out there as well, and we all expect it to, you will see a huge outpouring of support. You'll see community members on overpasses out to pay their respects. Let's send it back to you.
And Christy, are people lining up outside? I know we have our shot on the hearse, of course, right now, but are there people lining up along the street?
There are quite a few people out here, some with American flags, others with flowers. And you'll notice too that there's medical personnel, the staff here at the hospital, also wanting to pay their respects to this very heroic man.
A lot of broken hearts this morning, Christy. In fact, we even see, it appears, doctors and nurses standing there in their white medical coats. We also see canines, people who from all walks of life want to be there just to say their final goodbyes to Sergeant Ron Helis, a man who, in every sense of the word, was a hero.
And you think about how hard those medical workers, they worked through the night. We know earlier this morning around 1, 2 a.m., they were overwhelmed with patients.
And that's why there is such a strong need for blood, as we keep mentioning. Lorena High School from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They will be able to, just seeing the people hugging and consoling each other just tugs at your heartstrings. But people who want to help, again, you can donate blood. That's the #1 thing they need right now for all of those people who are in critical condition, who suffered gunshot wounds. They just need blood, the gift of life. If you can get to Thousand Oaks today to make a donation, you know that those people would be very appreciative.
And we are going next back to, I think, Cara Finstrom, who is live at the scene of the nightclub where the shooting happened this morning. She's been talking to officials on the ground, but also survivors and family members who have been coming, trying to locate their loved ones. Cara?
Such a difficult day, Suzanne, and a huge force, both of investigators from the federal government and also our local police and law enforcement that are out here right now. I'm going to move out of the way and give you a feel for the area where a command post has now been set up. You can see Ventura County Fire Department. We know the FBI, the ATF also out here trying to kind of better understand, if you can, what happened here overnight. 12 people were killed and more than 20 others were injured. We were here as some of the survivors started to come down the street. We spoke with them. Many had loved ones who were waiting for them at the bottom of the street. They've been able to reach them on their cell phone and were anxious to embrace them. Some were wounded. We saw one man who'd hurt his leg jumping out of one of the broken windows and running to safety. Another man had blood on his shirt from rushing to help someone who was wounded. And we spoke with a woman who had a bandage on her leg. She had been out with friends on the dance floor when she said she heard gunshots. Here's what she told us this morning.
I heard the gunshots and I turned around and it was a guy walked right through the front door and just started shooting people. So a bunch of us that were on the dance floor ran off the dance floor and all dogpiled to the side. And I had people below me, I had people on top of me, there were people on all sides of me. And then the shooting stopped for about 5 seconds and a couple guys that were closer to the bar but on the same side as me got up and started sprinting for the back door and said, "Everyone get up, he's coming."
She got out through a broken window there. She scaled a hill. She said that she got hit in the head by a bar stool. She got trampled. So just one survivor story, and there are so many of them. Fortunately, her father, she was able to reach him on her cell phone, and he was waiting for her. But Peter, Suzanne, she told us 2 of her friends that she'd gone to that bar with last night were still missing. So she left here with a very heavy heart, waiting for word about that.
And Cara, we've heard from so many survivors this morning. That's what's really just been heartbreaking, especially that stepfather and son who were at Borderline Bar and Grill, that they got separated for a while and he couldn't find his son, who's 26. He took him there thinking they'd have a great time, do some line dancing, listen to some music. How has it been out?
Yeah, and then another...
I'm sorry,
Suzanne. I was going to say another one was a woman who rushed up, flew out of her car, and her son was a bouncer there, could not get word, could not reach him on his cell phone, and rushed up the hill to try to find him. So, so many horrific stories, and we're just starting to get bits and pieces of them. But when you think about 12 people who were killed and the number of lives that are going to be impacted here, it's really a little overwhelming.
12 lives that obviously the ripple effect is going to be felt not only throughout our community, but all across the nation. People from all walks of life, the President of the United States included, are responding to this, are reacting to this, and sharing their condolences.
Yes, we talked to one young man who was inside the club. He says when the gunman walked in, he looked like any other guy just attending the club for the night until he saw him raise his arm, holding a gun, and just start shooting at people. He was one of the people, Cole, who we're talking about, he didn't give us his last name. He left the club, it was filled with smoke, and went to the patio where people were unsuspecting, just listening to the music, and helped dozens of people crawl and climb to safety. It was just a chaotic scene, and people ran and scattered. In fact, one of the older gentlemen we talked to, he had some survivor's guilt this morning. He said he regretted not going back in to try and help people. But even the sergeant who went in to try and save lives, he was armed and he ended up dying.
And let's not forget the 2 CHP officers who were simply responding to a nearby traffic stop. They went to the scene as well, and we heard from one of the Sergeant Julie Novak earlier today, who said that, you know, sometimes the CHP gets a bad rap, but certainly not in this case. They were one of the first to go inside with Sergeant Ron Heelis to help stop the barrage of bullets that they had actually heard themselves. And we heard the dispatch of those CHP officers saying, we're going to try to stop this. We know what's going on. Sergeant Heelis went in first, and he didn't come out.
And he was a 29-year veteran of the department. He was within a year or two of retiring, and it's just devastating for his family. He had been talking to his wife just moments before entering the bar and hung up saying, I have to go, there's a call. And then the next person she talked to was the sheriff saying, unfortunately, he died, but he died a hero. He was trying to save lives, and he did.
And he did. 54-year-old husband and father, and you can see just the outpouring of emotion right there, the people who are lined up to pay their last respects. It's also worth mentioning Sergeant Heelis was more than just a sergeant. He was also a member of this community. We spoke with members of his own church who came to the scene because they wanted to pray. They wanted to gather and mourn his loss and offer their condolences and send up support. And in moments like this, you find yourself sometimes feeling very spiritual. And certainly for a lot of these folks who knew Sergeant Ron Heelis, he was more than just a member of law enforcement. He was a member of their community, someone who they looked up to, someone who they respected. He had been in that community for more than 2 decades, served as a member of the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, just a few years shy of retirement.
And the sheriff identified the gunman as Ian David Long, 28 years old, from Newberry Park. He was a Marine Corps veteran. He was decorated. Investigators believe he may have suffered from PTSD. They say that he first shot a security guard and other staff members before aiming at the dance floor and just shooting, killing 12 people.
It's troubling when we learn more details about Ian Long and some of the issues that he was dealing with, mental health issues, possible PTSD. We've heard that he had several encounters with law enforcement, including a call to his home in April when they found him acting irate and irrational. We heard from neighbors that told Randy Page this was someone who spoke to himself, who looked like he wanted to tear the house down, is what one man described, who was very aggressive. They were fearful not only for their own safety, they were fearful for his mother's safety. He lived with her. And now that poor mother has to deal with the news that her son was involved in a mass shooting.
And of course, she could have been the one who called police on him in the first place in the past. You hear about these problems that usually stay inside the home where people think it can be fixed. And in April, they did a mental health check on him and he was cleared. So she did everything she could do back then, but of course, she can't predict what her son's going to do. Now we're waiting on the identification of 11 people who died inside the nightclub. It's important to mention that it was an 18 and over night. This happened every Wednesday night. You know it in your communities. It's those few places you can go to when you're a teenager. You go and you listen to country music and line dancing. And there were students from several colleges there, Cal Lutheran, Pepperdine, Cal State Channel Islands, and Moore Park College. Several colleges have canceled class today because they are aware of students being involved or being at the scene who are dealing just with the trauma of experiencing and witnessing people being shot to death in front of them.
And Pepperdine also just tweeted that they will be holding a mass prayer on their campus later today in honor of all of those victims because they are affected by this as well. Cal Lutheran, as you mentioned, has canceled class. This affects people from all of our local colleges and folks who live in the community in Ventura County, as well as down here in Los Angeles as well. People from all walks of life praying and hoping for the best for these families, and many of these families still waiting to get word if their loved one is alive.
In fact, there was a man, speaking of prayer, Peter, he led people in a circle of prayers at the scene. He said that even if people don't believe in God or if they don't share the same religion as him, he just came down to provide comfort and support. He has two friends who he says he believed passed in the shooting, and he knew Sergeant Helis from church and from patrolling the town. He says he's been coming to this bar for 20 years. We talked to people who are looking for their children this morning who have been to this bar 20 years ago. It opened 25 years ago. So this is a community institution that people feel a connection to. Never thought that they'd be preyed upon like this. And it just reminds you of shootings that were just so recent, just a few days ago, the Tree of Life synagogue shooting, these safe havens that...
You think about Pulse nightclub, the San Bernardino mass shooting at the community center there. You think about
Route 91
Route 91, people gathering completely unaware of what's about to unfold. Just their guard is down. They just are going about their daily lives, and then something horrific like this happens. You can never make sense of it, ever.
And it's heartbreaking because it is, we work so many hours, we do so many things that are commitments, and it seems like these shootings are happening at places where people are seeking release and connection to community. And this is more commonly the place where we're seeing these mass shootings happen.
That's the unfortunate thing. All right, let's go back out to Christy Fajardo. She is live at Los Robles Medical Center, where that procession will be beginning in about 15 minutes. Christy, can you hear us?
I can, yes. They're already staging. As you can see, the Sheriff's Honor Guard is at the doorway, and the hearse has also arrived to escort or to take Sergeant Helis's body to the coroner's office in Ventura. And you'll notice, too, that the medical personnel here at the hospital has also come out. They want to pay their respects. We're also seeing a lot of community members who want to do the same, including some people who survived the Vegas shooting earlier today. There was a woman who arrived, and she told us she wanted to come out and thank law enforcement. Those two women have since found each other. They're standing together. I don't know if they knew each other previously, but certainly both of them very moved by what happened here and stunned that after surviving one mass shooting, there would be another one so close to home. And we've also spoken to other community members who tell us that they just felt like they had to be here. Some of them have come out with flowers, others with American flags. They say that at least one gentleman tells us that his own children went to Borderline Bar and Grill. So this really, really felt very personal to him. And we're also seeing law enforcement from all over the Southland. The LA County Sheriff's Department has deputies here. The CHP has officers here. We're also seeing Pomona PD, who recently lost one of their own. There's also the Oxnard Police Department and the Ventura County Fire Department has come out with 2 ladder trucks, and they've extended those ladders, and they're now flying a giant American flag right here at the entrance to Los Robles Medical Center in honor of Sergeant Giles. And there's at least one deputy here who has not gotten any sleep. He has been helping to organize this procession, and he tells us that he personally knew Sergeant Giles. Sergeant Giles had been his supervisor, and he could not say enough good things about him. He said that he embodied that word hero that we hear so often overused, but not in this case. He said that he was a tremendous person and also a tremendous deputy who always acted selflessly and had always shown strong character. He is not at all surprised by his act of heroism. He said that's exactly who he was, and that is why there are so many people coming out to pay their respects. And again, this procession will get started at 10 a.m. and a very large law enforcement presence has come out to escort his body to the coroner's office again in Ventura. And the Ventura County Sheriff's Department told us that they wanted to make sure that his body was treated with dignity and that he got the hero send-off he deserves. Let's send it back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Christy. We are continuing to wait that procession, which will get underway in about 10 minutes for Officer or Sergeant Ron Giles. Again, a 29-year veteran of the Ventura County Sheriff's Office, leaves behind a wife and son. And
our Christine Lazar is also on the ground at Los Robles Hospital. Christine, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, and I want to show you the scene here outside the hospital. This is where the procession will come. You can see law enforcement from all over the area are lined up outside the hospital, and then on every corner you have people who live in this community. Many people walked here with crosses. That one right there says Hero Giles, with flags, with their children. I want to talk to some of the folks who have been out here. You said you walked out here at 7:30 this morning.
My husband and I have been here since 7:30. He's a retired firefighter, and my stepson, his son is a police officer, 35 years.
Why did you want to be here to see this procession?
We had to be here. I mean, I'm sorry. We had to be here.
Can you describe the feeling in the community right now?
This is such a small town. We've lived here since the late 60s, and it's just the bedroom community for a lot of police and fire that work in LA County, LA City, Santa Monica, all over live in this town because it's so friendly. I mean, people didn't even lock their doors when we moved here, and our police have always been, you know, they wave to you, you wave back. They've always been friendly. We know most of the people that are here, and it's just a tragedy. And you know, just say I love you to your loved ones, because that was the last thing he said to his wife, and we were so touched by that.
His family will eventually see the video, I'm sure, of this procession. What do you want them to know?
I just want them to know that a lot of people love him, even if they don't know him personally, that his spirit touched all of our lives, and that's why we're here. That's why we're here.
I want to move down and maybe talk to few other people. You're out here with a flag. Can you talk about why you wanted to come out?
To support our law enforcement.
Can you describe the mood right now here in Thousand Oaks?
Sad day.
And what do you want? What do you want everyone to know who's watching this coverage, who's seeing you all line up here?
Well, I've been watching it since early this morning, and Thousand Oaks is a awesome community, and it's a safe community, and it'll continue to be a safe community. It was yesterday, and it will be today and tomorrow, and I just wanted to be out here to give my support to the officers and to the city of Thousand Oaks, all first responders.
We've heard so much about Sergeant Giles that he went into danger. You know, he wasn't far from retirement. He was almost done. What would you say about his act of heroism?
It was heroism. I have family members that are in law enforcement who would have done the same thing, I know, had they been there. And, you know, I pray for their family, and I know they'll have a big support from all of the Ventura County sheriffs and all around. But this just shows you Thousand Oaks parking. I parked probably a mile away and walked just to be here. I just felt in my heart, this is what I could do right now. You know, we had one person that we thought was there, and luckily he wasn't. So I'm blessed that didn't happen. So.
And you see these shootings happening all over the country, but to have it happen in your community where you have raised a family, can you describe what that is like?
I've been here 33 years, and safest city ever. I've had people calling me from the East Coast because they know I live in Thousand Oaks. So this happened 2 miles from my house. I've been there plenty of times. It's a great place, and I hope it continues to be a great place and not be remembered for one senseless act, you know.
And I want to show you, Steve, if we can pan around. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I want to show you the route that the procession will take. That right there is the hospital, Los Robles. And the procession will come out of the hospital. You can see all the lights and sirens on the units up there. It'll come down Jan's Road here to Lynn Road, and then it will take Lynn Road all the way to the 101. Now, driving up here, we've seen people lining the street up and down Lynn Road. There are a lot of people out here. I imagine more will come. We're here at the corner where we've seen the most amount of people, but you know, a lot of people in times like this, they don't know what they can do. They feel helpless. And so this, of course, is something that people can do. They can pay their respects to a fallen hero. And maybe if we have some more time, would you like me to talk to a few other people? Do we have more time?
Yes,
okay, I'm going to toss it back to you guys in the studio.
No, we have time. Christine, if you want to talk to a few more people. All right, well, all right, we're actually going to switch on to Candace Crone, who is live for us at the Reunification Center. Oh,
I think
you can see the grief.
Yes, that is Cody's father, Jason Kaufman.
Candace, that's the man you spoke with.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, that is the father of Cody Kaufman. If you guys can hear me, he is about to approach the podium, just visibly distraught, crying. Our hearts are just, it's really hard to even watch this moment, but he's going to address us here very shortly. Looks like he's accompanied by a relative. Let's listen in.
You all know that I was been here fighting for him all morning long. And we did just get the news that he was one of the 11 that were hit and killed last night. His name was Cody Kaufman. My firstborn son. Only him and I know how much I love, how much I miss. Oh, God, this is so hard. Oh, son, I love you so much. Oh, Heavenly Father, just please be with him. Oh, Cody was the big brother that my kids need. I have a daughter coming on the 29th of this month that he was so excited to have his first sister, and not now she'll never know. Oh, Cody, I love you, son. And I just want to thank everybody that let me get out this morning just to put his face on the news. That this is gonna be an absolute heart-wrenching time for me and my family. I just want to say thank you to every one of you. KTLA 5, thank you. Fox 11, everybody, I watch you and I love you guys, and I just want to pray for everybody else that is going to be going through the same situation. There's many more to come, but for me, this is a heart that I'll never get back. I'll never get back. My son was on his way to fulfilling his dream of serving the country. Yeah. He just turned 22. He was talking to recruiters and doing this thing that he had to do to become part of the military. Yeah, in the Army. To me, his outgoing love for everybody, his outgoing love for his baseball team. He was a head umpire for the Camarillo Pony Baseball League. I mean, there was so many people that he touched, and now are going to be just as heartbroken as I am.
Was he the hero like you thought he was? You
He stayed behind. Yeah, he stayed behind. We don't know anything. They just told us that he was pronounced dead on the scene.
Jason, you spoke to us early this morning. You said you were here because your wife was at home and she would not be able to bear the stress of being out here. Talk to us about
Yeah, she's all the family. She's here. Cody's mom is here as well. They have they can't come out. I talked to you all this morning, and I thought it was my honor and my duty to come up and let you guys know that we found him.
When did you last talk to your son? Yes, he had just moved in with them and was living with them for the last
not even
3 weeks.
Not even a month.
Yeah.
I talked to him last night before he headed out the door. First thing I said was, please don't drink and drive. Last thing I said was, son, I love you. That was the last thing I said. Oh my God. His name is Cody Kaufman. The companionship that I have with my son, the companionship that my son had with his other two brothers, this is absolutely going to crush those two boys. This is not going to be easy for a very long time.
how many siblings does he leave behind? What are their names?
Yeah, he has two brothers and a daughter and a sister on the way. Joshua Kaufman is 8 years old. Dominic Kaufman is 6 years old. And Chase, with his mom, he has another brother. I think he's 8 years old and 9 years old. And then my newborn daughter that's not here yet. Her name is Aurora.
How do you break the news to him? How do you break that news?
You know what? It's going to be probably in church, with the pastor. I don't know how. I just want him to know that he is going to be missed. This is my father-in-law, Mike. I love this man. He is my father. My father and mother live 10 hours north up in Clear Lake, and they're going to be devastated.
They're on the way down.
Jason, there are people all over the country watching, and they say it can't happen here. And you've seen this firsthand. It's touched your families. What do you want to say to people around the country who are watching yet another senseless shooting?
I cannot believe that it's happened to my family. I don't know what to tell to the other people. I don't know how to console or what to say to the other people that are gonna be going through the same situation as I am. I am so sorry for their loss as well. I am speechless and heartbroken. I've been talking to you for a little while. I am pooped out. I'm spent.
Long day.
What has helped you just deal with this difficult time?
I got a great support system, and absolutely 100%. Everybody, I'm hearing on the news. I'm hearing from a lot of other people that there's a lot of other people that have seen me on the news and seen what's going on. And I thank everybody that has had their hearts out for my family since this morning I've talked. And I'm so sorry to come to you guys and tell you that my life has changed now forever.
Jason, can you talk a little bit about what legacy will he leave behind?
A legacy of love, laughter.
His life was cut short at too young of age. But we have a faith in our God, in our Christ, and we have a hope of a resurrection. Life is fragile. I pray every morning, excuse me, I say, drive to work. Because I know we had a plane crash on the 101. They drive that to work every day. And people need to understand it. It's fragile, it's precious. You know, life is sacred, and we should cherish it. And I can't comprehend, we want to look for reasons. There is no reason why evil things happen.
What were his dreams? What he wanted to accomplish?
He wanted to be the big brother to these 2 boys and 1 daughter and sister that's coming. That would, man, I don't know what else to say.
He loved working with the kids, the little kids.
What are the things that you did that made him get into
Oh my gosh, what didn't we do? You know, ever since my son was 3 years old, I coached him all the way up till we played high school baseball. I was the coach. I did this, I did that. He was my fishing buddy. I fished all the time, and that poor boy would come with me, whether he liked it or not, fishing on the boat. That's the kind of stuff that I am truly gonna miss.
How do you feel about the one that took his life and others' lives?
No comment. I don't have a comment. I feel sorry for his parents.
How about weapons? How about weapons? Too many weapons in the country in the hands of the wrong people?
No comment on that. You know, everybody's has their rights. You know, we all live in a free world here. United States of America is for everybody. Guns are in the wrong hand. So I don't even know what to do. All I want to tell you guys is thank you very much for the support that you guys given me today. Thank you. I've put it up on many different screens. I've let everybody take pictures of Cody. Yeah.
Mike Johnston. With the T.
Yeah. My last name is Kaufman. Coffman.
I'd like to thank the Sheriff's Department and the Emergency Services Office, and they've lost one of their own. But they're in there taking care of us. You know, our hearts go out.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. You guys are very welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys.
That was the father and grandfather of 22-year-old Cody Kaufman, now confirmed one of the victims of that mass shooting in Thousand Oaks. A big brother of 2 and 1 on the way. 2 little brothers, 8 and 6 years old, and a third sister to be born in a few weeks. Cody played sports at Camarillo High School. His teammates are remembering him online this morning. His grandfather said very poignantly at one point, life is fragile.
Life is fragile. Such powerful words from those 2 men. And now you can see on your screen the procession is underway for the other victim, Sergeant Ron Helis, a 29-year veteran of the Ventura County Sheriff's Department, Sky 2 live above it all. They are taking his body from the Los Robles Medical Center all the way to the Ventura County Coroner's Office right now. People lining the street, some holding American flags, all to pay their respects to a man who put his life on the line so he could save others.
And our Christine Lazar is live along the route where people are holding flowers and holding flags, remembering those who have passed.
Look at that.
You can see them waving them in the sky.
Just an outpouring of love and support for not only all the victims, but also for Sergeant Ron Helis. Again, a man who leaves behind a wife and son who knew that the gunfire had erupted inside the borderline, but went in anyway because he wanted to save as many people as he could.
That's right, and the sheriff saying that he died a hero and told his wife he died a hero, and this was his dear friend. They've been up all night remembering him and the other people who passed. In fact, other members of law enforcement right now are in the process of notifying other family members of loved ones who have passed.
Such a sobering day for Southern California. Let's go to Christine Lazar. She is live on the ground down there. Christine, what are you hearing from people who are out there?
Yeah,
to pay
hi,
their respects?
Peter. You know, I have to say, we're at such a busy intersection, but when that procession came through, everybody was silent. It was like the world just stopped, and the only thing moving was that procession. It is so emotional out here, you know, for even just people who aren't living in Thousand Oaks, aren't residents of Thousand Oaks, but especially for those who call this home. And I want to talk to one of the women who's been out here since 7 this morning. What was it like to see that procession move through?
Heartbreaking, heartbreaking. We appreciate and respect our police so much. They don't get enough kudos. They just don't get enough. I mean, people don't realize what they do every day. And for this man to just to run into there in the line of fire with not even knowing what was going to happen, you know, and to have him just get killed like that is a horrible, horrible thing. There's no place for anybody to be right now today than where we are right now. This is the place to be.
How did you feel when you saw the hearse go by and you knew that Sergeant Helis was in there?
Overwhelmed. I saw the flag. Overwhelmed. Completely, totally overwhelmed. I mean, there's no words. I just ache for his wife and for his child. I know how it feels to lose somebody, and I ache for his wife and his child.
And there are men, women, and children out here. I want to talk to. Can I talk to you, sir? Can you tell me how did you feel seeing that procession move through? It was so emotional.
I mean, time stopped, honestly. I heard you say that earlier, and I didn't want it to end, honestly. It was reassuring seeing the support from everybody, all the way from Pomona to Santa Barbara. It was really, really emotional and really touching, and I'm proud that we can have that kind of support system so quick.
What has the feeling been in the community today, this morning, as you all stood shoulder to shoulder here on the sidewalk?
Just shock. I mean, at borderline is something somewhere pretty much every young person's been to, from 18 to, you know, for many years, for the rest of their lives probably. And it's just unreal that that's what happened here. That's where it happened. I mean, I'd be shocked if you knew someone that hadn't been there, and it's still sinking in, honestly.
Okay, I'm going to move on down the line, guys, and talk to a couple other people down here. Can I talk to some of you about why you wanted to be out here today?
Well, waking up to the news this morning was quite shocking. We have a nephew that is a Ventura County sheriff, and another nephew who is an Oxnard police officer. So law enforcement's very important to our family. You just have to pay respects. This is too close to home not to.
What did you think when you saw that procession move through? Sorry, we have a couple dogs out here.
I'm sorry about that. I thought, but for it being such a sad occasion, it was absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I love seeing the crowd swell on all the corners, and I can only imagine the crowd's even larger as we get closer to the freeway. So I'm very touched by it. I hope his family is.
The world is watching this right now. What do you want them to know about Thousand Oaks?
Thousand Oaks, while once was known as the safest city in America, I still believe that. It's a beautiful city. I can't imagine living anywhere else, and I still can't imagine living anywhere else. I hope you come and visit. It's really beautiful, and this is a wonderful community.
And you guys will get through this?
Oh, we will get through this. We will get through this.
As evidence today already coming together. I don't know if you're on my picture, but people are starting to disperse now, leaving here. But some of the folks have been here since 7 this morning. And we're just literally, as you saw, you know, right down the street from the hospital here. So they've just been basically standing at attention, waiting for this to move through. You know, any loss of life is devastating, but to know that this was someone who was about to retire, who had given so much of his life to the community through law enforcement. 3 minutes after the shooting began, he runs in when everybody else's impulse would be to run out. And yes, that's his job, but to know that he died protecting other people, because undoubtedly there would have been a greater loss of life had he not run in and tried to stop this. You know, it just really hits your heart. It's a really tough time for the community here. And maybe I'll talk to a few other people. I see a mom here. Hi, someone I used to know.
I know, I was just telling my friend Allison, I was like, I know her, I went to college with her.
Yeah, a small community. You brought your son out here. Why did you want to be out here?
We wanted to show pay our respects to the sergeant's family. Yeah, we're a safety family ourselves. My husband is a fire captain, so we wanted to show our respects to the law enforcement and safety community today.
And can you describe at all how it felt to be out here and see the procession?
Very somber, a lot of patriotism, a lot of American flags, just a community coming together in a time of need.
Did it help at all with the morning to be out here and to pay your respects?
I think so. It does for me. When things like this happen, it's one of the things that we like to do to show support.
And just last question for you. What now? How do you move through this?
I just think coming together as a community, really helping one another, being there for one another, and helping the community to heal.
Thanks so much for talking to me.
You're welcome. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too. And as everybody kind of heads off now, lots of people have jobs to do, school to go to, but you know, today and for many days and for many weeks and months to come, this community will be forever changed. I'm going to toss it back to you guys in the studio.
And Christine, I think you said it best. Time has stopped. Right now, we are all watching this procession as it continues on the northbound 101 freeway. You could see all of the cars and trucks that have pulled over to the side of the road, all the people lining the overpasses as well. We also see helicopters circling above from law enforcement. They are also involved in this procession. So this is a massive effort underway to pay the respects to Sergeant Ron Helis, a man who had been with the department for nearly 3 decades.
In fact, our entire state, our whole country is in mourning. President Donald Trump was tweeting this morning, paying his respects. Our new governor, Gavin Newsom, is expected to be speaking, addressing California in the next 15 minutes. But looking live at this picture, both sides of the freeway have practically stopped. And you see the procession of law enforcement vehicles taking hero Sergeant Ron Helis's body to the Ventura County Coroner's Office.
He truly is a hero in every sense of the word. When you think about the fearlessness and the fact that he was willing to go in without hesitation, he called his wife briefly just to say, "I love you, I've got to go," and then he did his job, knowing that he was putting himself in harm's way.
He was 54 years old, a 29-year veteran, just on the cusp of retirement.
You can even see the fire department there. They are standing in salute right now as this hearse moves on the northbound 101 freeway. Wow. A lot of people coming from all over Southern California. They wanted to be here because they wanted to pay their respects to a man who truly is a hero, a man who sacrificed himself so that others could live.
Yes,
and right now this procession continues. It's going from Thousand Oaks all the way to the Ventura County Coroner's Office.
And he went into the bar. He was just a couple of minutes away, went in with 2 CHP officers trailing him. They were just down the street doing a regular traffic stop. And he led them in and confronted the gunmen, undoubtedly saving many lives, even after 11 other people had been shot and killed, and stopped the gunfire and risked and lost his own life in the process.
This community is shattered. You heard from that one woman Christine Lazar spoke with. This is considered America's safest city. They will get through this. They will recover. But right now the focus is on Sergeant Ron Helis and all the victims of this senseless mass tragedy at Borderline nightclub that happened in Thousand Oaks. We may never truly know the answer as to why this gunman went in and did what he did, but at least we can take reassurance knowing that the community is coming together, that people are stopping their day, coming to the 101 freeway, trying to just stand in salute and honor a man who clearly put himself above others.
And unfortunately, one of the lives lost was Cody Kaufman. He is the first of the innocent victims who were at the nightclub who lost their lives. He was 22 years old. He was joining the military. He loved to fish and play sports. He was about to have a new baby sister that's set to be born in just a few weeks. He played sports at Camarillo High School. His teammates have taken to social media remembering him and reflecting on the times they shared together. And that's just one of 11 people who were just out for a night of country music and line dancing.
So many lives senselessly lost in this mass shooting. Our Cara Finstrom has been out there all morning long with us. Cara, how has the mood changed for folks out at the scene right now? I know that the procession is underway, but has there been any change amongst the crowd?
Peter, a number of people have actually left here to go watch the procession because it doesn't pass by where we are right now. Where we are right now, the push is underway to better understand what happened, and there are a lot of investigators here beginning to look into that. But some of the fellow deputies, some of the first responders actually did leave to go line the area where that is going to be passing through and pay their respects. Such appreciation here this morning for the act of that sergeant. He did not need to be there, is what we were told repeatedly by some of his fellow officers, deputies, firefighters. He was about to retire, and he heard the call. He kind of knew there was something going on, and he rushed to help. But with his seniority, this just wasn't typically something that a sergeant would do, but he rushed on in to see what had happened and sacrificed his life. So many people here saying it could have been a much worse situation. As horrific as it was, so many lives. There were up to 200 people, were being told by some witnesses in that bar, and by him rushing in, by him and the other officer that rushed in opening fire, they believe it helped curtail the massacre that was taking place inside.
All the people who are standing there to watch as that procession continues on, thousands of people, I would estimate, came together from all over Southern California. You could see just the massive line of cars and people just standing at the side of the road to catch a glimpse of this, just to honor Sergeant Ron Helus, because again, he really was a hero. He put himself in the line of fire, knowing he was in danger, knowing that there was a chance he wouldn't come home, and unfortunately he didn't.
And it just takes your breath away when you see the officers and the members of the fire department saluting, because they all risk their lives. Any call can lead to a life-risking emergency. And as Cara just said, he didn't actually have to respond to that call, but he was so close by. He hung up with his wife, and he ended up losing his life as a result of it. And the sheriff, who was dear friends with him, had to call his wife back within hours and let her know that he had died saving others.
You're right, Suzanne. He didn't have to risk his life, and neither did the CHP officers who also provided him backup. They were responding to a nearby traffic stop. They dropped what they were doing to help. It really just gives you a newfound appreciation for our law enforcement, doesn't it? And what they go through to keep us safe.
Yes. And the members of law enforcement who aren't there saluting, lots of them are busy with another terrible job, notifying families their loved ones have passed. 10 more innocent victims at a nightclub that was 18 and over. So undoubtedly there are other young members who were just out for a Wednesday night that the community has been doing for 25 years.
All right, let's go back out to Christine Lazar. She is speaking with some of the people who came to witness this procession. Christine, what can you tell us?
You know, actually, just about the last people have just walked away. You know, people still have jobs and work and families to get to, but I just spoke to two women, lifetime Thousand Oaks residents, both of them in tears, and I said, you know, what do you do now? How do you move forward? And she said, right now we're going to donate blood. So this community is not going to just go home and mourn quietly. They are here to lift each other up, to be there for one another. Another woman telling me her biggest fear right now is seeing the list of the dead. Because with a town of 100,000 people, she says, I know that I will know people on that list. And if I don't know them very well, I will know them at least by name. And so, you know, there's still a lot more grief that's going to come. And this is a town that has been in magazines for being the safest community in America. And obviously no one's immune to violence like this, but it's really hard when folks here aren't used to having shootings in their community. So they don't have, you know, maybe the same kind of coping skills that people might have when they live in a, you know, in the middle of a major city where you have more crime. But they're all telling me Thousand Oaks is still safe. We still feel safe here. You know, a lot of law enforcement live here. So that also makes this all the more hard because we have a law enforcement officer who is among the victims. But I can tell you, as many tears as I saw this morning, on the corner here, I saw a lot of strength and a lot of perseverance of people who believe that they will come out of this stronger and that this community will heal. But they're going to have a lot of funerals to attend, and they're going to have a lot of people that they need to be there for, because everyone does expect to know someone on the list of those who died in this mass shooting.
Thank you, Christine. And we want to also mention a website. If people are unable to donate blood, if you're in another area or just physically unable to, the Ventura County Community Foundation, vccf.org. We'll put that on our website, cbsla.com. That's where people can make donations. You go to the website, it's already set up to help the victims of this disaster. It says, "Together we mourn, together we stand." An unspeakable tragedy occurred with the shooting deaths of 12 of our community members, including a Ventura County Sheriff Sergeant in Thousand Oaks last night.
I like how they put that. Together we mourn, but together we stand. All right, let's go back to Christy Fajardo. She is live outside the Los Robles Medical Center, where that procession began. Christy.
Yeah, it began here, and it was a very heartbreaking, but also very moving scene when that procession pulled out of the hospital. There were medical personnel outside, hand over their heart. And as you can see right now, the fire department has just put down the ladders on their trucks. These ladders actually at one point hoisted a big She was too upset to talk, but she wanted to come out and pay her respects. There was also a woman here that we spoke with who had survived the Vegas shooting. This all hit way too close to home, and she wanted to come out to see how she could help. Here's what she had to say. Well, she told us that she wanted to come out, and we apparently do not have that sound, but she told us that she wanted to come out and show her support. And she also wanted to let survivors know what happens next. She says it's going to be very difficult, that it's a long process, that they should let themselves mourn, let themselves be human, and let themselves cry if they need to. She also said that there is a Facebook page for Vegas survivors, and that they will welcome anyone who survived yesterday's shooting to join them as well. They say that they are a strong community and they will be there for one another. But all day long, we have really been seeing community members coming out here to want to show their support for one another. Also, the law enforcement community. There have been colleagues of Sergeant Helis coming all morning long with heavy hearts. They're now wearing their grief not only on their faces, but also their badges. They now have those mourning bands across their badges. So does the fire department. So really, many people have been moved by his death. And we've heard incredible stories about Sergeant Helis. There was a deputy here who says that Sergeant Helis had been his supervisor, that he really embodied everything we think of when we hear the word hero, that he was a man who had so much integrity and also so much character. He was not surprised at all that he would barge in so selflessly and valiantly, knowing what faced him on the other side yesterday at the Borderline Bar and Grill. And, you know, people here, the Sheriff's Department is very saddened, but also very proud of Sergeant Helis. They say that he is the kind of man that really embodies what they feel law enforcement is all about, protecting lives. And again, the scene here is wrapping up here at Los Robles Medical Center. Some of the personnel is still outside. They came out, as I mentioned before, to pay their respects. They too had really been moved by Sergeant Helis. Let's send it back to you.
Understandably moved. People from all over Southern California, all walks of life, stopping what they're doing right now to watch this procession. It just passed Camarillo Springs Road, and in the left corner, you can actually see the law enforcement helicopter there as it continues to follow as well.
It's quite a sight, just seeing how long the procession is, how people stopped, how people saluted members of law enforcement, and just that those choppers hovering overhead. It breaks your heart, but makes us so grateful for our members of law enforcement who put their lives on the line. He chose to go in the path of gunfire when everybody else was running out.
And we choose to focus on the heroes of the story rather than the suspect, because this is the man whose photo we want to see, the man who saved others, who put himself in risk, who did everything he could to stop this gunman. Let's go back to Cara Finstrom. She is live at the Borderline nightclub where all this began. Cara, emotions still very raw right now.
They are, and you know, as some of the firefighters, the deputies, the other law enforcement personnel are really focusing on remembering the sergeant. Others are behind us doing the very grim work of trying to understand what happened out here last night. They are talking with witnesses. They are collecting evidence from a number of sites, including the bar and grill where those murders took place. What you're looking at here is the large command post that has been set up for all these folks to work together. Now, earlier this morning when we arrived, you could feel the fear. You could feel the panic. At that point, nobody knew that 12 people had lost their lives or that more than 20 people had been wounded. And we started to see some of those survivors, Peter, Suzanne, coming down the street one by one, sometimes in groups. Some of them were covered in blankets. They were comforting each other. And we spoke with some of them. Some of them had injuries. One woman had a bandage across her knee. Others had scrapes and cuts. And all of them were extremely shaken and rattled. Here's what one woman told us.
I was outside on the patio and a guy I don't even know who had seen me there was like, get down. He threw me under one of the tables and then you couldn't see anything because I guess there was smoke. And then one of the guys who was there, they started throwing tables out the window and they picked us up and they threw me and my girlfriend out the window and they carried us, and then I reunited with my friends and I was lucky to get out. I was only there for a good 10 minutes, but there's like no words. Like, those are my people. And it's just not fair. It's not fair.
And Suzanne, Peter, we saw a lot of tearful reunions this morning. Parents hugging their children as they came together with them. Siblings hugging each other and then going to reunify with another sibling who had to go get stitches because she was injured as she climbed out of a broken window. But what's difficult for us to think about now are all of those parents that came out and were looking for their children, the 12 people who died, the heartbreak that they're going through at this point.
And that young woman you spoke with, Cara, was right. It is not fair, unfortunately.
And how she said, this is my family. A lot of them bonded over the Route 91 festival and how they were all there just to have a nice time enjoying country music. And we heard from people who survived this shooting that dozens of people who were inside this nightclub had been at Route 91. So that's why they feel such a closeness with each other. They've been through so much, and then it happens again.
Can you imagine having to deal with this all over again? Oh, just horrible. All right, this procession now passing Carmen Drive. Again, you can see firefighters, people who just wanted to show up, standing by, standing in salute, waving American flags. All the flags in the United States are at half staff right now in honor of the lives taken unsenselessly here in Thousand Oaks, and people just continuing to stop what they're doing to make sure that they pay their respects to not only the victims but also Sergeant Ron Helis. And again, he was on the department for nearly 3 decades, 54 years old, left behind a wife and son.
And of course, law enforcement is in the process now of notifying the remaining families that their loved ones have passed. We've identified one of the 11 victims who was inside the nightclub, and Cody was 22 years old. And Cody Kaufman, his father and his grandfather spoke just a few minutes ago as the procession started. And they were crying and their voices were cracking because they were up all night going hospital to hospital, hoping that Cody wasn't one of the victims, but they couldn't find him. So they were on our television sets early this morning, way before sunrise, pleading for somebody to share any information they have. They held up Cody's photo, praying that he wasn't one of the people in the nightclub, but he unfortunately was.
And wasn't their message powerful, Suzanne, when Cody's grandfather said, life is fragile?
Yes.
Life is fragile.
They were just out for a night of line dancing. That's what people in the club said was happening when the gunman walked in, threw a smoke bomb to disorient people and to create confusion and chaos, and was able to shoot 12 people in that nightclub.
But look at that, Suzanne. All the people who have stopped, not only on the side of the road, but you could see even in the business complexes, there are people coming outside just to catch a glimpse of this procession. You could see them lined up there along the Greenway. people wanted to see and say goodbye to Sergeant Helis and thank him for what he did and his heroic efforts in saving lives inside that nightclub.
Well, it's incredible knowing that he was counting down the days and the weeks until retirement. He had a grown son, his wife, who he had been on the phone with right before going into the nightclub. He heard the calls, he heard the shots, but he still went in even as people were running out and confronted the gunman, undoubtedly saving countless lives. There were, according to witnesses, hundreds of people inside the club at the time.
And his colleague, Sheriff Jeff Dean, his friend, it was his last day as sheriff.
Yes, he said, what a horrible day. He described the scene inside as hell.
That's a pretty strong word, and that is accurate. It is hell, not only for his department, but also for Sergeant Helis's family and loved ones who now have to deal with this grief. The fire department, from agencies all across Southern California, people in uniform standing by, standing in salute. Here you could see on the overpass at Springville Drive, drivers pulling over, all so they could pay the respects. It's just incredible to see just everyone come together in this moment of tragedy. It's reassuring that there is hope, that there is a semblance of unity.
That's all a community can do as well. You know, people move to Thousand Oaks thinking this is the safest city in America, and they wear that badge with pride. There are a lot of law enforcement families who live in Thousand Oaks. You think it's safe. People check on their neighbors. People know what their neighbors are up to. But it's times like these where it's the people who help and who come together. And we spoke to a woman, Christine Lazar did out, who was holding a flag, who she has lost people in her own family. And that's why she came out, because she had a connection, a horrible connection. But in times of great tragedy, you try to do something that makes sense of it, that helps somebody else when you are helpless to help the person who lost.
And as a reminder, there is a need for blood. We are hearing that there are many patients in critical condition at Los Robles Medical Center. They need all the help they can get. The mayor of Thousand Oaks is asking anyone who can come up there to make a donation. They also need O-negative blood. That's the universal blood type that can help. So anyone who can come up to Thousand Oaks today and help donate blood. Look at that, Suzanne. The message is heal, peace, love.
Wow.
So powerful.
Well, it's just incredible to know that so many people are feeling inspired to reach out to others and to show their support. And we're going back and showing when Sergeant Ron Helis's body was transported to the hearse right before the procession began.
And I believe we have our live signal back from Sky 2. We can show that again. But again, this is that moment when they loaded his casket into the hearse, and you could see the silence and the somberness there of all the people who wanted to just salute him and be there as that procession began here at Los Robles Medical Center. This is where he was taken after he was shot several times and pronounced dead. And that procession winding from Los Robles Medical Center all the way to the Ventura County Sheriff's Department, still on the 101 northbound. Again, people from all across Southern California lining the streets, coming outside, doing whatever they can to be there. Okay, here we go. There's that live signal from Sky 2. People on overpasses, waving American flags, holding messages that say love, peace, anything that they can do to just express their appreciation and gratitude to Sergeant Ron Helis for his heroic actions, for putting his life above others.
And undoubtedly, some of those signs that they're holding up are for the families of the victims who are waiting to hear news, whether their loved one is in the hospital, whether their loved one has passed away inside the nightclub. You can only imagine the families this morning still awaiting word, awaiting to be notified, is my child alive, or is my husband alive, or my wife?
So much heartache, so much that people are trying to figure out right now. Why did this happen? What was the motive? We're still not sure, but right now we want to focus on the heroes of this horrible tragedy and the fact that, again, Sergeant Ron Helis, a man who was with the department for nearly 3 decades, who, as his colleagues described, was the first one to jump into the scene and try to help others. California Governor, newly elected Governor Gavin Newsom, is about to speak. He's going to address this horrible tragedy. We're just moments away from hearing him speak as this procession continues on the 101 northbound. I believe we're about to listen to him speak. If we can listen in.
For that, but it's self-evident that things were appropriately rescheduled, considering what happened late last night. as all of you know, I've been for years and years concerned about gun violence, not just in San Francisco as a former county supervisor, as a former mayor, but as lieutenant governor. I was proud that the voters of California supported some very sweeping gun safety measures 2 years ago. Many of those provisions are held up in court as we speak. Irony of that is not lost on me at this moment, nor was the opposition of the NRA with my candidacy for governor. But this can't be normalized. You know, this is just remarkable, just another day in America, but tragically now in our state. And the loss of a law enforcement officer. You know, I know we talk in terms of heroes often, and I'll be candid with you. I think sometimes we overstate heroism, and as a consequence, sometimes it gets diluted. But then there are real heroes, like this sergeant that actually saved lives, that walked in, and through that act of heroism, there are families that are able to hug their loved ones tonight. There are lives that will change for generations because of his heroism. And so I just want to express my deep respect, my deep admiration to the men and women in uniform, to law enforcement broadly, but to this remarkable sergeant for his act of courage, his act of bravery, his act of heroism, and the lives that he has changed, and the stories of those that survive and those that have been enlightened by his example are, to me, demonstrable of what the true definition of heroism really is. And so, you know, it's you know, a heavy heart. You come here a day or two after an election for governor. You ought to be focused on other things. 23 folks injured, and obviously 13 lives in total lost. And it's, you know, this is America. It's got to change. This doesn't happen anywhere else on planet Earth. And we can't let folks forget that. Can't lose sight of that. Can't allow this to be normalized. And so I, again, just want to express obvious expression of condolence, sympathy, and grief for what occurred. Look, it puts conversations around transition. I imagine you came all here prepared to ask me, you know, what's the first act during a transition? You got a chief of staff. You've lined everybody up. I'm not prepared to talk about any of that today. Frankly, I wasn't prepared to talk about that. Regardless, we will be rolling out in a very systemic way, a very thoughtful way, the transition, very deliberative way. We'll begin tomorrow by doing that. We will do it differently than most transitions, and that will be obvious tomorrow when you learn more about how we're going to process inclusion and engagement through this process, bottom up, not top down, in terms of the transition itself. I am here, and I'm grateful to everyone at St. Anthony's because you know, this is the city of St. Francis. This is the city I was born. My kids are fifth generation.
All right, you just heard from Governor-elect Gavin Newsom expressing his admiration for the heroic actions of Sergeant Ron Heelis and also the bravery. Soon-to-be Governor Newsom said that this cannot be normalized, this type of shooting. He said there are real heroes in this world like this sergeant, and lives will change for generations because of his heroism.
Well, when you think of the victims who lost their lives today, you have families shattered, just hearing from the Kaufman family directly. You saw a grandfather and a father in grief, and then siblings who lost their biggest brother, the firstborn son of their family. So that's just one example of one family in Thousand Oaks that's been affected. There are clearly 10 other families from whether it's Thousand Oaks or nearby communities that the ripple effect is just devastating.
And it's going to continue. One of the families we heard from earlier was from a young man named Cody Kaufman, and his father and grandfather spoke with us earlier this morning about his loss and also the heartache that they're dealing with.
I was been here fighting for him all morning long. And we did just get the news that he was one of the 11 that were hit and killed last night. His name was Cody Kaufman. My firstborn son. Only him and I know how much I love, how much I miss. Oh God, this is so hard. Oh son, I love you so much. Oh Heavenly Father, just please be with him. Oh, Cody was the big brother that my kids need. I have a daughter coming on the 29th of this month that he was so excited to have his first sister, and not now she'll never. No, oh Cody, I love you, son. And I just want to thank everybody that let me get out this morning just to put his face on the news. That this is gonna be an absolute heart-wrenching time for me and my family.
Life is fragile. I pray every morning, excuse me, as they drive to work, because I know we had a plane crash on the 101. They drive that to work every day. And people need to understand it. It's fragile, it's precious. You know, life is sacred, and we should cherish it. And I can't comprehend, we want to look for reasons. There is no reason why evil things happen.
A father and grandfather's just raw emotion, their profound grief and emotion there at times just chokes you up, watching the father just processing the emotions. We have been with him all morning.
We were there when he was looking for his son. He was holding up his cell phone to the camera lens and saying, "Have you seen this boy?"
It's devastating. When newly elected Gavin Newsom, our new governor, spoke, he said 23 injured, 13 lives lost. This is America. It's got to change. This doesn't happen anywhere else in planet Earth. And there are 10 other families who are awaiting the news this morning. Law enforcement is, if they're not in this procession or saluting the procession, they are out there notifying families and loved ones that they have lost family members. They'll never see them again. This is just one of 12 funerals that will be happening as a result of this mass shooting.
It's been a long and painful morning for a lot of people, and the grieving process is only just going to get started for a lot of people who, at this time yesterday, obviously had no idea what was about to unfold less than 24 hours later. So unfortunately, we...
And another family member, Jake Dunham, we've seen a lot of posts from his family and from friends wondering where he was. We're not sure what has happened with him. He is 21 years old. His dad was out there looking for him as well, and it's gone silent. Ken Dunham was out there. He said he keeps calling his son's phone, but there's no answer. It just keeps ringing out, and he always answers his phone.
And also Elena Housley, her Apple Watch was pinged inside the nightclub, and her aunt, TAMERA Mowry, the actress, and Uncle Adam Housley, they were desperately searching for her, posting on social media, asking for any updates that people may have had. And the last tweet that we saw from TAMERA said that they hadn't heard from her for 7 hours. And unfortunately, it doesn't look good right now.
And it appears that the procession has arrived at the, hasn't arrived, they're preparing. My apologies. We've been on the air for about 8 hours now. And
it's slowly winding its way towards the Ventura County Coroner's Office. It started at Los Robles Medical Center, just 2.5 miles from Borderline, which is where this mass shooting took place.
And if you look on the left-hand side of your screen, that is the destination, the Ventura County Coroner's Office.
All the flags in the United States of America are at half-staff in honor of the innocent lives lost. And also, again, people are stopping what they're doing. They're coming outside just to pay their respects to 54-year-old Sergeant Ron Helis, a man who was on the department for 29 years, was set to retire next year. It was just, he was that close. But even though he could have just stopped and not gone inside, he did. He went inside and faced the danger, knowing that he might not come out.
And Sheriff Jeff Dean said he was hardworking, he was dedicated, he gave it his all, and he told Ron's wife he died a hero because he went in to save lives, to save other people.
And even Gavin Newsom just mentioned that sometimes as a society we throw out the word hero, but in this case, truly, Sergeant Ron Helis embodied the word hero in every sense of the word. I mean, this was a man who did everything he could to stop a deranged gunman from taking more lives.
When you have hundreds of people running one way, which of course, can you blame them? And not just people fleeing, they're helping other people's flee. You have somebody who goes in knowing that this could be their last few breaths on the planet to save others.
He sacrificed himself.
Yes. And those CHP officers had his back as well, but he was in the front. He suffered multiple gunshot wounds. He was taken to the hospital. That's where this procession started, because he lost his life at 2 this morning at Los Robles Medical Center.
All right, I believe we have Garo Karegian from the Ventura County Sheriff's Office on the phone. Garo, can you hear us?
Yes.
First off, sir, we can't even begin to describe the pain that you and your department are feeling right now. But if you could you explain to us a little bit about what you're going through?
This is a very difficult time for us as an agency. Losing Ron is a friend. He was a 29-year veteran. He was a trainer. He was a leader. He was a cop's cop, and it's something that leaves a hole in our heart. Obviously, his family is left in a state that words can't describe, and we are absolutely in mourning right now. But even in our state, we remember the 11 other innocent victims that tragically were killed in that senseless act of violence last night, and we mourn with our residents, and they mourn with us.
And Captain Karegian, can you tell us? We're remembering his heroic moments, but can you give us more of a picture of what he was like, especially since he was so close to leaving this job and enjoying some downtime?
He was a great guy. He actively trained. He trained both physically and mentally. He was a lifetime learner, getting advanced degrees. He was a likable, very, very likable guy, a teacher, someone helping the younger deputies learn what's necessary to be an effective cop. And it's one of those things that we never want a day like this to come to anyone, much less someone that we know so closely and we are going to miss so much.
And Captain Karegian, we continue to watch this procession live on CBS 2, Sky 2 above the scene. We have seen thousands of people coming out to show their support. How does that comfort you in some way, the department?